Thanksgiving. Everyone's favorite feast day. The holiday that brought peace and harmony upon two completely different nations and is now celebrated by many all around the world as a day sharing, love, and unity. This innocent and beautiful day of festivity has to be pure and righteous. Right. Wrong. The opposite is actually true. And there is a malicious effort to paint over the ugly truth with a beautiful lie. Today I am going to showcase a brief history of the real origins of Thanksgiving and why celebrating this day while claiming to value life, freedom, and justice is purely hypocritical. There is a widely accepted myth that friendly Native Americans welcomed the Pilgrims to America, taught them how to live in this new place, sat down at dinner with them and then suddenly disappeared. Some even say that they sold their land for an extremely lopsided price. They handed off America to white people so they can create a great nation dedicated to liberty, opportunity, and Christianity for the rest of the world to profit. That's the story. It's about Native people conceding to colonialism. It's bloodless, peaceful, and fair. I would say that even common sense tells us that this is far from the truth. But as most of us know, sense has become very uncommon. The only part of the former notion that is true is the fact that the Native Americans were very hospitable to the European settlers. Many, including Christopher Columbus himself, documented this fact. In his own words,
"They willingly traded us everything they owned. They were well built, with good bodies and handsome features. They did not bear arms, and they did not know them, for I showed them a sword, and they took it by the edge and cut themselves out of ignorance. They have no iron, their spears are made of cane. They would be fine servants. With 50 men, we could subjugate them all, and make them do whatever we want."
From his very first contact with Native people, Columbus had their domination in mind. As we just heard from the horse's mouth, with 50 men they can all be subjugated and made to do what is required of them. Unfortunately, these were not mere words. After his second voyage, Columbus sent back a consignment of natives to be sold as slaves. Native inhabitants could not understand the demands of the Europeans that arrived from across the sea. They had no understanding of Christianity or any concept that the Europeans now claimed the land as their own. Europeans forced the native populations to adhere to the customs and tenets of Christianity without regard for differences in culture and language. Natives that refused or simply did not understand the demands placed upon them by the foreign invaders were subject to brutal and often very humiliating punishment.
One of Columbus's captains wrote, "I captured a beautiful woman, whom the Lord Admiral gave to me. And having taken her into my cabin, I conceived desire to take pleasure. But she did not want it, and treated me with her fingernails in such a manner that I wished I had never begun. But seeing that, I took a rope, and I thrashed her well. She raised such screams that you would not have believed your ears. Finally, we came to an agreement, in such a manner that I can tell you that she seemed to have been brought up in a school of harlots."
This is a disturbing, but very necessary part of history that must be told. Many of us in this generation love to romanticize the origins of Native American and European colonizers' interracial dating because of what we see on television. Let me be clear, I am not saying there is any problem with a Native American and Caucasian modern-day couple. But the truth matters, and there is a false narrative being pushed about the slave willingly loving the innocent slave owner. The same false narrative is being pushed about our black women. This is a obviously strategic white supremacist enforcement tactics. These women for the most part were not initially willing participants of these grudging relationships. But after hours, days, or weeks of physical and sexual torment, they eventually gave in to their wicked captors. So, how do Native Americans feel about Thanksgiving? I know that they are not completely monolithic, so this does not include every single indigenous American, but based on research and the many Native Americans I've met personally, I believe many of them share these similar views. Don't take it from me, let us hear it from their own mouths.
Happy Thanksgiving, America. I'm Donna, and I'm here with my friends to tell you the real history.
Whose land? Whose land? What do we want? When do we want it? Now!
Raising their voices to be heard after feeling silent for centuries.
Why do we gather today? 400 years later, we join to raise our voices high that we are still here. We are not conquered, we are not defeated.
As many were enjoying the Thanksgiving parade, indigenous people of Massachusetts protested the holiday that for them is not one to celebrate.
The true story behind Thanksgiving was, after every killing of a whole village, these European settlers celebrated it, and they called it Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving for us is a day of mourning because it represents the day when the Pilgrims first settled here in New England, and they started their reign of tyranny and genocidal acts amongst the indigenous tribes.
It's rich with history, but not the truth of the Indians.
Our presence here is a stark reminder of the true story of Thanksgiving that differs from so much from the fable stories shared in classrooms, history books, and celebrations across this nation.
Growing up, I would be kind of annoyed that they didn't know what actually happened on Thanksgiving and that they're actually celebrating the deaths of many people and many tribes that were lost.
This was a murderer and a rapist.
Since 1970, the Wampanoag tribe has declared Thanksgiving a national day of mourning for the loss of indigenous people, culture, and land.
Because I also want to spend time with my family, and we do have the tradition of celebrating Thanksgiving, but there's definitely a big part of me that every time we sit down for Thanksgiving wants to talk about injustice and the fact that we're living on stolen land.
Fight with the federal government over land.
Here we are about to celebrate Thanksgiving, and the fact that our tribe is still fighting for a little bit of land that we have. We own half of 1% of our ancestral territory.
We tried to feed them and take care of them because the Pilgrims wouldn't have made it through the winter without us, and they paid us back by savagely abusing us and murdering us and enslaving us, stealing our crops.
And 400 years later, we don't have much to be thankful for.
The people don't understand that there was a Holocaust in America. When you displace a people, when you try to assimilate them, and you systematically genocide them for hundreds of years, that's a Holocaust. The government, they relocated them, and then they tried to assimilate them, and then when they realized, oh, well, actually, we don't want these dirty Indians to be assimilated with us, so we're just gonna deprive them of food and water and take away their way of life, and, you know, hopefully they just die out.
Happy Thanksgiving, America.
There you have it, the truth about Thanksgiving. Do with that information what you may. Let me know how you feel about this in the comment section below. Subscribe to the channel and press the bell icon for more informative videos such as this one. And don't be stingy with the like button, it's free. As always, one love family.